Yeah, it's an uphill battle. And I think what you mentioned, it's interesting as well, because like you said, the offer also depends on I guess where you're at. And that's the other part. Like before reaching out to someone, let's say like you said, like an HR software, like you can segment because you can see like, is a company growing, is it shrinking, right? And you can just offer different value props depending on where they're at. Like, I don't know, if it's shrinking, can you like make their workforce more effective, for example?
Hey everyone, glad to be with you once again. Happy New Year. We haven't been around over the past couple of months. Everyone was pretty busy closing the financial year. And I can totally understand that. For everyone who kind of missed the past couple of months, my name is Mario Peshev. I'm the host of the B2B Growth Hacking Playbook, a podcast featuring great industry experts working in B2B in all sorts of different areas of work. Right now, I have Alex from HyperGen here. Hi, Alex.
Hey guys, nice to meet you.
Great to have you here. And we had several conversations around hopping on the show. So for some context, we met a couple years ago, I believe. Well, we've kind of met across the digital landscape. So we've had several conversations around cold email, cold sales, sales playbooks. And over the past, 6 to 8 months, you can probably tell us more about that. But I'm seeing you more and more online, just uncovering best practices on email marketing, on outreach, on reaching data. So I thought this is a pretty relevant conversation for the show and for everyone kind of watching and trying to navigate a roadmap for 2025. And I'd love to kind of learn more about what's working, what used to work last year, and we can just dive in there. So as a starting step, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, about HyperGen, and we can pick it up.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, by the way. So basically, the way we started HyperGen, me and my co-founder, we had started working together in this startup. It was like blockchain, real estate. At some point, they kind of pivoted from B2C to doing B2B. And this was way back. It was like around almost like 4 or 5 years ago when cold email was just picking up. And the way we kind of learned about it was I was like this tool Lemless that it's still around, but they were doing like a lot of blog content around that time. So that's when I read about it, right? It was like how to create, multiple accounts, how to write the copy. And it was fun back then because also you didn't need to do that much to get the results versus right now it's way more complex. But what ended up happening was these guys landed their biggest deal ever with the largest independent real estate brokerage in Texas from cold email. We're like, whoa, that's like crazy, right? At some point we just started, freelancing, like offering it to other people. Actually, even when we started the agency, we did like all kinds of stuff, like website, blah, 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 like a general agency. But we saw that people were super interested in this. So that's why we decided, okay, let's focus on cold email. And, yeah, I mean, 3 years later, we're here. We're about 40 employees right now. And, pretty much we're only offering cold email, and recently we added the RevOps as a service too.
That's pretty cool. And one of the things that I noticed while just checking your website before the show, once again, is, and I'm going to screen share that real quick, but kind of what I've noticed is that looking you up, I found several sponsored units on Google Ads, which is pretty impressive. And again, I mean, this is HyperGen's website. I know that it looks great and stuff, but sponsoring can, like, HyperGen is not a traditional full kind of dictionary keyword that you can find in a dictionary. It's not, I know, Apple, for example, right? You can bid for
Yeah.
Apple for all sorts of reasons, but HyperGen is not one of these dictionary words. And the fact that, you can also see like LinkedIn sponsorship here and Cleverly and a bunch of other services, it's a strong testament that what you do is working and and businesses are still bidding on that keyword. So I find that pretty insightful. So again, I mean, obviously kind of what you do is kind of working out. Tell us a bit about kind of your success stories over the past year. Like, where did email marketing really hit it off, and kind of what are some of the ICPs that you're targeting that are really working, some of your success stories, so that people who are not leveraging email marketing heavily, they can imagine, okay,
Mhm.
that's something that's relevant to my industry. That's something that I can apply.
Yeah.
I know that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. That's a good point. And the more obviously, clients we work with, the more we solve for who it works and who it doesn't work. Um, Pretty much, I guess where we can start, the first step would be how big the TAM is. If it's very niche, and I mean, let's say below 15, 20,000 companies, it progressively gets harder and harder. Because at the end of the day, the way cold email works, it's like you need volume plus good targeting and good messaging. But let's say for any client or anyone we work with, the minimum we'll be doing, it's like 5,000 unique contacts per month. And that's 10 to 15,000 emails sent per month. And to fill up like an AE's pipeline, ideally you'd want to be doing even like, 10, 15,000 contacts and 3 times that email volume sent. So definitely the bigger TAM you have, the better the advantage that you'll have, because you can keep going for new contacts and maybe like keep going back to prospects like later down the line. The other thing that's crucial is the deal size. Like at least if you want to like work with an agency or like have an SDR even handling it. But the bigger the deal size, the more the math makes sense. Because also what ends up happening is, at least for us, we've never managed to make like a self-serve model work as much. It's very hard. Ideally what prospects would expect is like after you email them, for them to like jump on a call with you. Like that's the typical scenario. I know some tools like let's say Instantly, which is a cold email tool, have grown through cold, but I think that's more like an exclusion because they're pretty much promoting themselves. So the bigger the deal size, the better. Um, the other thing I would say, it's there's just certain niches that are much harder. I like to make this joke. The higher the IQ of the people you're messaging, the harder it is to get them to convert on cold emails. So like dev titles, ITs. If you're pitching something bizarre like cybersecurity, that's I don't think like cold is like a good channel for that. For IT it can work, but again, like those are we just seen like they have uh lower response rates and they're a lot more skeptical. Whereas like marketing titles, they're just like easier to reach out to. Um, yeah, I would say those are the main three. And then another thing that what makes like a huge impact, probably one of the biggest differentiators, it's your offer. So if you're, let's say if you're a marketing agency, like you give them a free audit, or if it's something very unique that nobody else has, like let's say we work with this agency, like they have 5 services in one, and you just pay like a flat fee for that. Or let's say even I know it's a bit cheesy, but like even sometimes offering stuff like gift cards, like all these stuff like makes a difference. So like really thinking about the offer, that can make a huge difference. So I would say those are the main 4 things I look at. And obviously sometimes you just, even if you have all those 4 and you try it, sometimes it still might not be as good. But chances are like if you have like 3 of those or 4 of those, like it's probably gonna work if you do all the right steps.
Lots of great points here. And in terms of offer, if I have to rank it up myself, and again, I mean, that's just personal experience and kind of based on our experiments, offer is probably the number one differentiator, and also how painful of a problem you're dealing with. Because sometimes there is a great offer, but it's just not something that's super relevant. To give you an example, right now our inbox is flooded with applicants, but we are not hiring super actively just because workload is not as high. And even though the offer may be, let's say an incredible hiring system, application, applicants tracking system, so it's just not really top of mind, right? The fact is the past 2 years, especially in B2B, anything that's revenue generating is top of mind. I'm reading lots of different studies. Everyone is just, chasing more business, trying to grow pipeline. That's the number one problem. On the other hand, back in, let's say 2020, it was, well, let's say that pipeline was taken care of by itself, while hiring, operations, management structures, productivity frameworks, security, customized platforms, R&D, like there were lots of other problems that people were dealing with. Right now it's more about how to grow pipeline, and it boils down into go to market motions, different tooling that facilitates that, how to save costs by amplifying those solutions, tools like Clay that again I'm pretty sure that you're going to mention again in a bit, and data tracking like again RB2B, Kwanzu, and others. We had the Kwanzu founder as well on our podcast, so we discussed data intelligence and data tracking, which is again super important. So all of these are now it's more about again growing revenue just because the market is shrinking, right? But yeah, offers are the biggest contender, and whenever we enter a space that's quite crowded and doesn't have a super clear offer and is not in super high demand right now, it's just impossible to do almost anything with them other than building one-on-one relationships, literally events, brand
Yeah.
ambassadors, venture capital, PR, things like that.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle. And I think what you mentioned, it's interesting as well, because like you said, the offer also depends on I guess where you're at. And that's the other part. Like before reaching out to someone, let's say like you said, like an HR software, like you can segment because you can see like, is a company growing, is it shrinking, right? And you can just offer different value props depending on where they're at. Like, I don't know, if it's shrinking, can you like make their workforce more effective, for example? Right. So it's also, uh, and it's interesting because it's also like you can take the same product, but you can rethink depending on like where the prospect is at when you're reaching out to, like how can you rethink that offer or how can they use your product or service differently?
Before we talk about some of the tooling, there are dozens of AI SDR agents right now, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And we've always had, you mentioned Instantly, same goes for Apollo or Brevo or a bunch of others where you can just automate existing templates and keep running the same sequence over and over and over again. So the proof in the pudding, of course, is again the offer, look the right targeting that you already mentioned, the large enough deal size. All of these are completely valid. But with all that oversaturation of AI SDR tools, do you feel that the efficiency of cold email is going down? And of course, it's never going to disappear. Email is the best converting ROI channel. I firmly believe that. But what have you seen over the past 12 months?
Yeah. So it's it's definitely a lot different. It's a lot harder compared to the previous 12 months. The first thing is probably deliverability wise. I'm even gonna share like this guide and we can go through a quick few slides there to like show you what you need to cover. But it's basically what happened was because so many people were sending out emails, including these tools. Like I even heard like a lot of founders complaining. It's like it's crazy. Like I log in, there's like a millions of like emails, like people
Yeah.
sending them to me. It's like super irrelevant, right?
Hmm.
So that's one of the problems. Like right now, it's so easy to create accounts and like spam a lot of emails, including these tools and like other tools. So there's definitely a lot of saturation, kind of like how it happened with like if you think about Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and whatnot. It's just gotten way harder. Um, and I guess the issue with these tools is that basically what AI SDRs do, like a large chunk of them, at least when I've looked into them, it's like you answer 5 questions, 10 questions, and then like it goes and it does, whatever it wants on its own. And the only way they can kind of, bring more results a lot of times is to like just more sending. So I've heard a lot of people when they signed up for it, the first couple of months, it's fine because they're, blasting out your TAM, but then like results just start degrading and they haven't managed to close that much because I think like AI right now, it's not at the point where it can, you answer 5 questions, then you can do like everything from A to
Yeah,
Z.
that's it. Hmm.
The other cool thing that's happened, like on a positive note with AI, is especially on the cold email side, like we got tools like Clay, which I always talk with other friends that have marketing agencies. So, like I feel kind of blessed in a way because it's one of those tools where we're kind of forced to adopt because a lot of our competitors were using. And we just saw immediately like pretty much use cases on how we can improve what we're doing. Like Clay is an amazing tool because let's say 12 months ago, like if I wanted to write like a personal email, for example, someone would have to like manually write it, like you have to pay a person.
Hmm.
But now with Clay, if you prompt it well enough, like you can teach it to, let's say, I'll just give you a few examples, like generate, free ideas on how they can use like your product or service specific to them. It could be like, let's say you're reaching out to, specific type of company, like let's say, for example, reach out to debt companies and like, okay, I want to make my message a bit more relevant. So I'm going to check like, what's the type of debt that they're offering? Like, is it acquisition financing? Is it like mergers and acquisition financing? Is it, loans or whatever? So that's been, yeah, it's just been so different. And now it's changing more so from doing, manual work to like teaching your team how to like adopt AI and like teaching them how to like prompt it. Really like in the next 12 months, I even think that 90% of what we're doing, like all the manual work, it's going to disappear. It's mostly going to be like people just prompting the AI and checking if everything is like working properly.
Yeah, Clay is pretty cool. We use it in some cases. We also use our, let's say, sheet GPT where we enrich our sheets, which is kind of doing more or less the same for certain
Mhm.
things. We have lots of make flows. There's a lot of automation going on, and all that's super helpful. But you mentioned the deck, and I'd be happy to see what you have covered on deliverability and all that. So, do you want to share it here now, or?
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. Just a few slides, but basically these are the 5 steps make all email work. We're just gonna cover mostly deliverability because I see that's the main one where people mess up. So I'm gonna make it super easy for everyone. Basically, right now there's vendors that can help you like set up the inbox. Like, so using Google and Outlook for sending out the emails. We use Inboxology, but there's others as well. So I really suggest checking them out. Instantly, I think has it too. But basically, you pay them a couple of bucks, they'll set up everything, they'll manage it for you. And for that, it's gonna be pretty easy. Um, from there, I guess the main thing is like, depending on how many prospects you're looking to contact, that's the amount of accounts you want to have. So let's say per 5K prospects that we're reaching out to, we have 15 accounts, and one account is doing like 30 to 40 emails sends per day. And we also keep twice the amount of that in backup because what happens is like accounts, they're going to burn, all the time. It just happens. Like sometimes it's, Google spam filter updates, which happened in the last 12 months. And then other times is if you're messaging a tougher audience, like let's say IT, like basically the lower your buy rate, the more likely your accounts are going to start burning. And yeah, this is the ramp up period. So you start with 10 emails per day, and then you slowly ramp up to 30 emails per day per account. The other thing that's important to keep in mind right now, it's really important to avoid spam words. So, like, let's say, I don't know, like cash, loans,
Love it.
uh,
Yeah. The
yeah,
triggers.
like, yeah, the triggers, and it's gotten a lot worse, like in the past couple of months. So literally, like before, we would make copies and it would have these words. It wouldn't be such a big deal. Now it's like, especially for newer accounts, like let's say you just created them like a couple of weeks or a month ago. It's very sensitive, so you should use like something like Mailmeteor and Folderly to just check for all spam words and remove those. Um, and the other things that we can quickly cover through, it's the more variants you have, the better. Spin tags, it's basically randomizing your content. So, like for example, instead of just saying hi, you can say hello, like just randomizing that, or how are you? How are you doing? Like just uh basically the same words, but adding more variations. Because Google and Outlook also get triggered by that if you're just sending the same email. AI helps here a lot too, by the way. And other stuff like, avoiding images, don't track opens, click-through rates. Like, let's say how we judge if in an email it's working, it's mostly on like the reply rate and then the lead rate. Because everything else, opens are also kind of fake because like a lot of like Outlook, let's say you'll just open your email immediately when it
Apple
comes
as
into
well.
the
Yeah.
system.
pretty much
Yeah,
inflated.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter. Plus, who cares, right? How many people open? Like at the end of the day, it's like how much pipeline did you get out of that? For sending tools, we use Pipo. I really recommend them, like, because I know like other good ones are also Smartly and Instantly, but we just tested all of them and we saw that these guys had the best deliverability. So shout out to them. And the other two things I guess I would add, it's doing manual spam checks. So every 2-3 days, we're checking if the email is landing in the inbox. And you can also do this like whenever replies drop. So like let's say last week you're getting 4%, this week it's like 2%, there's like no holidays or anything like that. Then you should go in and send that email to another like Gmail or another Outlook and just check if it's landing in the inbox. Just at some point, especially like 6 months ago, like inboxes were just getting burnt like that. So we needed to replace them really fast. And my last tip, which a lot of people don't mention. So you have IPs on your Google and Outlook, which you can change, right? That's the email IP. But you also have IPs for the sending tools like Pipo. Like basically when they go to your API or when they log into that account, they also use the IP. So whatever tool you're using, whether it's Pipo or something else, we saw that a big difference, like what makes right now, it's like buying your own residential IP. So we're actually paying them to give us a pool of like, I think it's like 100 residential IPs that we're cycling through, all the time through different clients and different email accounts. And we just see like this also like made a huge difference. Like at some point, I think people were just getting burned because these tools were used to like sharing these IPs between like multiple users.
That's pretty common if you have like a cheap website host, I know, Bluehost or DreamHost or SiteGround or Show, and like most of these shared hosting companies, they have 2,000 accounts on the same IP, like same physical machine, 2,000 accounts, right? So like
Yeah,
one of the core most important things is going to Google Workspace or like Rackspace or so and get a dedicated email. Otherwise, you're going to get no deliverability whatsoever because definitely someone on your IP address is spamming like crazy and you're going to get burned.
yeah, and this is like it's not only the Google Workspace IPs, right? I mean, it's like for these tools. Let's say they were buying off AWS, but the issue happens like, let's say if me, you, and like 50 other people on the platform were using the same IP, it's gonna get burned. Like that's what happened. Like literally we switched providers because of this. Like all of a sudden our, replies like dropped with 50, 60%. We're just like going crazy. Like we had no idea what was happening.
Yeah, it's so wild. And that's a great list as well. I mean, pretty kudos for putting this up. One question, just follow up on kind of dedicated IPs. So do you use the same IP for the same campaign for one client and one domain? Or like, are you cycling IPs for the same campaign as well? Or trying to
Uh,
keep it consistent?
As far as I know, because like Pipo handles this for us, they're kind of like cycling it every couple of weeks or so. And even for one client, sometimes they might have like 3 IPs at one time. Like 10 accounts have this IP, 8 accounts have this other IP. So they're constantly cycling it. But yeah, to be honest, the moment we switched to that, it's when we saw like a big boost in the replies.
Yeah, because anytime I'm thinking about what did Google do or like what did Microsoft do or Apple show, I'm thinking of like what's the natural behavior of a human. And like in that specific case, you say, okay, we have 2,000 accounts on the same IP. Obviously, it gets burned because of bad actors, right? But when I'm thinking of should I swap IPs for the same campaign, then I'm thinking maybe the normal user behavior is like sitting on a computer from the same computer and same IP using the same tool, using the same IP. But at the same time, I'm not sure this is accurate, right? Maybe one person is just not sending 50,000 emails. And that's why you need different IPs with different people working in the same organization. So I'm just torn on that one because I don't have a human answer. what would the human do in that case?
It's a fair it's a fair way of thinking because let's say when we're creating the accounts, we're also thinking about like at some point using a proxy and just having like one IP to like log in and create the accounts. But we pretty much saw like, oh, it doesn't make a difference if we're using like a reseller too. So I had that same theory. It might be different right now again, but I believe that's how they're doing it right now, at least.
And the other thing I've noticed is you shouldn't always listen to what a specific vendor says. Sometimes best
Yeah.
practices are not what works in theory. And I think that SEO is the best example of that, especially over the past year and a half. Almost none of the best practices that Google are recommending are actually working. It's a completely different black, dark SEO type of strategy. So yeah, sometimes you just need to be creative or like look into some loopholes and hacks and stuff. Other than uh, other than email, like, are you enriching or are you partnering up with companies to do like omnichannel, like normal email marketing, remarketing, paid social, sending cold DMs or LinkedIn or anything else? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a couple of clients, let's say they might be doing cold calling on top. Ideally, in an ideal scenario, we just generate enough pipeline for cold and then they can like do the multi-channel after someone responds. But I think a channel that works really well, and we're looking to add this year as well, it's LinkedIn Organic and LinkedIn Ads. Just because like you have the list, 5,000 people from cold, it's very targeted. And like when you take that to LinkedIn, it has like a very high match rate, like let's say 80, 90%, or maybe even more. And it's also cool, like on HubSpot, for example, you can also build like an audience list, just connect that. Um, because what happens is, and LinkedIn Organic, it's also cool because now on LinkedIn you can like do thought leader ads, which are still super cheap. And even for us, like we're kind of doing that, right? Like we're messaging people, especially like everyone that responds positively. We automatically add them to our LinkedIn ads, and they're gonna see my thought leader content and even like regular LinkedIn ads. Um, and LinkedIn especially, it's also cheap, like retargeting. So those two channels is what I recommend. I personally am not a big fan of LinkedIn DMs just because it's more limiting right now to how many people you can connect with. And it's also kind of like if I message you, like the message stays there. So it's like, yeah, no, you don't want your ex seeing your bad DMs or whatever.
Even though I have a similar saying for cold DMs, like be careful what you for cold emails, be careful what you're sending because lots of people are using the inboxes as a CRM. And one of the reasons why I think these AI SDRs are so dangerous as well, if they're not human moderated and someone actually approving email templates and all that stuff, is my default action is whenever someone reaches out and stuff, the first thing I do is I check my email. I like type in their email or type in their name first and then email if I have it and just see what's coming up. And the reason is that even if you think of, hey, why not check your LinkedIn or I know X or something else? Well, because I do get emails for LinkedIn if someone messages me or for a comment on my post. So essentially the best aggregated place I can look something up, kind of my deep brain history, is my inbox. My Gmail is, I signed up in August of 2004, so it's already 20 years old, and it has 20 years of history, and there are other accounts that are piping and forwarding there and all that. So this is the reason I'm saying that it's very important to be careful when you send something, because it may sound like something's temporary, but most of the times it's not. And I know that other executives in my network, especially investors, they're looking this up because they don't know especially investors in my network. And I'm going to give an example here because they can't remember all the portfolio companies they work with. And sometimes there's a company that goes through an exit and then the founder starts another company. Or someone is a limited partner somewhere, but then they start a company or they fund another company or they see a mention in Inc. magazine or somewhere else, right? So this is the combination of emails and newsletters and kind of potentially message notifications and kind of press releases and all of that. It's consolidated in the inbox. So being cheap by just going for a 2 may be a pretty expensive lesson if you go with your name and all that stuff. And if you don't go with your name, you have the other risk that if someone opens your email and that sounds legit, they are going to do a background check on you online. And if you don't exist, they're just going to ban you.
Yeah. Or it's also it's funny, like a couple of months ago, we had clients that had like fake personas. And now we say don't do it because actually for one reason or like especially Google, they're almost like shadow banning those emails. I'm not sure they're checking LinkedIn or something, but literally if it's not a real person, it can actually affect your results a lot. Plus, like you said, like it's just natural behavior. Like sometimes people just go in and like message you on LinkedIn or like connect with you there. So you want to have that point of contact for sure.
Yeah, that's I can attest to that. And one of the things that you said, and I need to find the exact quote, but the higher the IQ is, the lower the success rate of email campaigns. So I generally think it's true, and we do lots of email, not necessarily mass outreach email, but like emailing again, M&A advisors, high profile CEOs and stuff. And I know for a fact that you can cold email these people, even if they're reading their inbox. You just can't. You need an intro. You need a reference point. You need they're too high in the hierarchy. And the fun fact is that most people, when they go and pull the source of whatever it is, they buy an email, database, or they go to Apollo or Instantly or so. They go in there, and most of them, the inexperienced one, I mean, they're looking for CEOs. That's kind of what they do. So this is the busiest person in the organization. This is one of the smartest people in the organization. This is the person who's not operatively working on most of these activities. This is the person who needs to forward elsewhere. They probably have an assistant or two managing and sourcing their email. You may find a public email that's not the one that they monitor. Like there are 1,000 reasons not to go there. But regardless, so many offers go to the CEO in particular. And that's just crazy.
Yeah. And even for us, like, we only touch CEOs, maybe up to 100, up to 2,200 employees. Like beyond that, I think there's almost like very little reason to go up to the CEO unless again, like he has something like a really good offer that they can resist.
And okay, so give me a couple of examples of, again, industries or types of companies that you work with and the ICP.
For sure. So the main ICPs that we work with, I want to say like number one is, interestingly enough, marketing agencies. So that's been an awesome niche for us, and I'll show you some personalizations that we're doing there. Another one I would say it's SaaS companies. Those are also awesome, especially like like I said, higher ticket ones as we call them. And then other niches that we work with a lot. Actually, it's M&A advisors. So people that are like helping others sell their company. Yeah, so that's a great one. And then we have like a bunch of other ones, but I would say the other main one, it's physical products. Those are it's just so easy to sell sometimes. Like we have this, let's say, forklift manufacturer, and actually I'm gonna add a point for who cold email works great. It's like the less saturated is the better, because like we just have some clients where I know we're hitting titles that are not getting as many emails, so it's easier to convert them. So cool. I guess if you want, I have some Clay stuff prepared, maybe specifically for marketing agencies.
Go ahead. Yeah, that's going to be fun, because I know for a fact that agencies are having a hard time right now. It's still a B2B market. It's pretty oversaturated, very hard to differentiate. And I have a community of like 20 agencies myself, so that's going to be helpful to them. Even for B2B SaaS owners, that I know for a fact that they're struggling to with outreach, but the agency space is going to benefit that. So let's see how Clay is helping out.
Yeah, let's do it. And by the way, I'm gonna share this table so people can just copy paste it, use it from there. Okay. So like this was built by my team. So shout out to them, Jorge especially. So basically this is an SEO table, right? So anyone that's offering like SEO services can use this. And the way we use Clay, and I was even gonna walk into like how it's better to use AI. Basically the less you ask AI to do, the better. So in this case, what we're doing with this table, it's like the rest of the message is a template. We're just personalizing the keywords that the prospect might want to rank for. So instead of saying like, Mr. Business Owners, do you want to improve your SEO? It could be more like, I saw that, are you looking to rank for keyword 1, 2, 3? Like, let's say if they're a hospital or something, right? Are you looking to rank for, risk compliance software, predictive analytics, AI risk management? And the way we're doing this, so it's pretty cool. I'll show you the prompt here. Basically, based on what the company does. So first we, extract what they do. And we're asking it to give out, I think it's 5 SEO keywords here. So you can see those here. And then what we also do, because you want to check if they're ranking or they're not ranking, we're pulling out their IP. So let's say, okay, we're checking where the company is, like, for example, in New York. And we're actually checking if they're already not ranking for those keywords on page 1. Because obviously you want to make sure like they're not ranking on page 1 when you're setting them up.
For anyone who's not familiar with Clay, like pulling all that data, are you connecting connectors to Clay? Are you using GPT to try to source this data with search? Are you self-populating with exports from, let's say, SEMrush Hrefs? Or you can dive into like, how are you populating the data other than just, GPT prompt enrichment or something?
Yeah. So it's pretty much just GPT. Like, first of all, let's see if we can find it. Like, we're prompting GPT to write like an example of what the company does. Like, you're just writing example, like, what does the company do? And this is just like, you can see the model. It's like OpenAI O1 mini. So this is like within Clay. We're essentially using our own API, but you could even just buy Clay and use that. And you can kind of see the prompt here. Oh, there you go. It's so it's using the company description and their URL. So you can actually go and check out the URL, and based on the description, and from that, just build out the keywords. The other tool that we're using, it's called Zenrose, and this is the tool that's checking essentially if they're already ranking or they're not ranking for that keyword. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that
And
was the question. Kind of, what do you use for? Because GPT is hallucinating a lot, and you also need some level of certainty, either an API,
yeah,
a scraper, or an export from an existing keyword too. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. So Zenrolls, it can check, and like I said, you can, give it the country and the location it's gonna check from. So that's a great one. And the other one that we didn't mention too, it's like Google PageSpeed. So this is also native to Clay. So essentially, you can check out their page speed. And here the cool part is like, you could use it in the message, or you could also prioritize like people that have a slower loading website, like over 3-4 seconds, even just like reach out to them. Or at some point, for example, we work with a page speed optimizer tool. So yeah, this would be great to like use in the copy, especially like you're a SaaS tool like that. And in the end, like, like I said before, this would take like a lot of times to do like manual research. And now when we're doing the outreach, like we can just plug this in and it's just gonna, increase the replies and the lead rate, just like that.
Love it. I believe the creativity of what you have to send is pretty important because most people are lacking that. And you mentioned Instantly, for example, and Instantly's templates are just outright stupid. Honestly, I mean, when I see kind of their defaults, they're almost insulting. And the reason for that is, of course, you've just seen something 5,000 times over the past 10 years. And by the time you do that, then it's this is immediately becoming a major problem. And again, I shout out the two authors are pretty great. They have a pretty sustainable marketing stack. They do have lots of like personalization, warm ups, like email lists and all that. And again, it's mostly used for like internal projects or like A/B tests or experiments. But kind of one example is if you want to do like whatever it is, test campaign. And again, that's just a kind of very, very quick demo of the product. So it's not but I'm not sure why that's a resume campaign, but yeah, you can probably add, what is it? There's templates. Yeah, templates. All right. So you have, okay. So that's one example. Your LinkedIn was impressive. Like what that's just stupid. Then you have we do X for Y and help Z, and like that's stupid framework. Then you have lead gen agency, right? What
Oh my
I've
God,
seen.
yeah.
Yeah, like the reason I'm allergic to this one in particular is if I open my XDMs, and again, this is all live demo. I haven't prepared that or anything like that. But if I do that and just go to like message requests, it's all that. Like, I didn't want to bother you, but blah blah, free money. Then there's someone, do you have blah blah, one last DM. Again, we helped do this for this, and then I've done however many views, and like, these are also cleaned up, but we help X with do this, and we guarantee these leads, exactly what you see, blah blah blah. I mean, it's so that if you keep, again, do you want 5, that's a different person from the one we showed. Do you want these appointments? And then, I mean, this is
You
so
know,
crazy.
what's funny? I also get those messages, and we're like outbound agency.
I know. That's wild. I mean, I'm also getting like requests for building websites for us or some stuff that's kind of in our DNA, and we've been doing that for 15 years. And the reason it's so bad is the templates are insulting because, I mean, obviously they're common knowledge, and just individuals. We literally have millions of people sending that. Millions of people sending the same stupid template, and it's the same stupid template for the same commoditized service, right? Be it
Yeah.
design, web development, SEO, link building, virtual assistant services, lead generation. Like there are, even if it's accounting, real estate, there's certain categories they're swamped. Accountants, lawyers. There are many millions of them, and you cannot just use a default generic num template for offering a service that has no differentiation. You're cluttering everything with that. I even had I even had an argument with all of those stupid templates. The CEO of Pavilion, that go to
Yeah.
market group in the States and all that. Great guy, very sharp, great community. I know lots of people there, and we are also kind of considering joining. And the other day he posted, I'm 38 years old, comma, then blah, blah, blah. Then something else. Here's what you need to do, comma. And I'm like, you can't use 2 viral, overused, abused hooks in the opener. That's not presenting you in your best light. Please do better. Don't give the wrong example to other people. That's not really representing in the best way. And I'm sure I came off a little, maybe kind of passive aggressive, even though I did, my best intent to just say, please do better, pray emoji and all that. But then he almost laughed me off with, well, you need attention and people need to see you and stuff. I'm like, well, that's the difference between viral and conversions. And you should know better on that front, right? You can always get viral with contradictory flame stuff, with panic, whatnot, like posting a nude emoji. Like, there are ways you can get viral easily. Just browse TikTok or Snapchat or something, and you can do that. But this is not going to make money. This is not what people want to associate with. This is not what the professional founders, executives, investors want to associate with working with you. So using these over the abuse frameworks is kind of falling in the same category. And we kind of cut it off there. But the thing is, the impression I'm having is even intelligent, well experienced people are just sometimes desperate and trying some of these because they see them so often. They say, well, if everyone else is using that, maybe that's actually working. While on the other hand, it's already abused and it needs to fade away, and people should forget about that even exists.
Yeah. Yeah. And then business owners go with an agency, they do this method and they're like, oh, why doesn't cold email work for me? Right. And it's the same with AI SDRs too. Like a lot of it, it's, not all of them, but a lot of them are very templatized. Like some don't even use any kind of personalization, or they use something basic, like so on LinkedIn, like you do XYZ, which is fine. But the way I kind of think about it, it's like when you're doing all these AI prompts, you're kind of building your own AI SDR. Because in the future, like you probably can. It's just like you need to build it model by model. like what makes sense for your business. Like if it's SEO, okay, like SEO keywords, but maybe, for example, we have clients that, they like work on people's ad channels. So even before reaching out to a prospect, like you can't accurately see their budget, but you can see, like, let's say the number of ads they're running, the number of formats, like which channels are they using. You can also generate, like, I can even show you, like, let's say when we're messaging people, it's like we're giving them free ideas on how they can use outbound. So it's not just like, let's get you 5, 10 calls. Like, have you guys tried reaching out to this persona? And some are like, oh, cool, that's actually like who we're going after. Or like, oh yeah, I've never like thought about that. So just like thinking about ways how you can like stand out. I think it's gonna make a huge difference.
Loved it. Definitely lots of educational tips and tricks and advice. And again, love the presentation and also the Clay demo. And I'll also share the link to the Clay link out there. Any, final wrapping words or tips, like you have to give one outstanding kind of piece of advice for everyone, or like a prediction for 2025? Like how should people approach email marketing in 2025? The good or bad, the life hack, the forecast, the prediction.
Mhm. Oh, that's crazy. Um, hmm, Trying to think. I mean, still cover your bases, like I said, in terms of like when it comes to deliverability, like that's your number one. I mean, before you send out any emails, like make sure you're not using obviously your main domain. Like make sure you have like a domain infrastructure for that. Again, like I mentioned, like for AI SDRs or whatnot, in my opinion, try to build out those models individually, like within Clay. And then let's say other things that we're working on, it's AI, like an AI SDR, but for like response handling. So actually, we're building a project where for SDRs, when they're responding to cold emails or even inbound leads, they're gonna have drafts of like emails and SMSs they can send. So pretty much think about all the manual stuff that your SDRs and As are doing right now and how you can automate them, but do it step by step. Like don't get one tool, click a button and wait for that. Like actually, get people or like have your team learn how to do it one by one. And I think a year from now, you're gonna have like pretty much 80 to 90% of everything automated. So I think we're gonna get to a point where, SDRs and AEs are gonna be able to, handle a lot more calls, close a lot more deals, and be a lot more efficient. I think that's how we should think about the future.
Very interesting. I'm going to double click on the point that follow-ups are also important, and AI generated replies are also important, because if your outgoing strategy is great, then you're considering that a customer service workflow like live chats have predefined response and stuff, but now doing that for sales, that's a great catch. And also one area that I'm also considering and kind of monitoring closely is now Mark Benioff hiring 2,000 salespeople to sell Agentforce. So hiring people to sell a tool that's going to replace people is definitely interesting in that area. So very much looking forward to seeing that. Where can people find you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn. You'll see I guess, should I mention my handle?
Yeah, whatever you want. Site, handle, profile, email, if you want.
Yeah, it's Alexander Ivanov. I guess we're gonna have that maybe here. And then Alex at hypergen.io if anyone wants to email me.
Sweet. If you want, I can drop that in the YouTube description as well. So
Sure, that'll be awesome. And I'm
crazy.
gonna give you more tables too that we didn't cover, but everyone can like grab those templates as well if they want to.
Perfect. Really, really appreciate you. I love the practical session with the presentation and the deck. I'm going to use that for inspiration for other people who want to showcase stuff. It's common in the agency ecosystem, just not everywhere else. So thanks Alex for your time. Really loved having you. And everyone, this was the B2B Growth Hacking Playbook. Yeah, we're talking to B2B leaders, executives, and essentially trying to uncover what's happening in the B2B space. AI has cluttered a lot of the web, so the stuff that you find on Google or even Reddit is not super relevant. You're reading old news, regurgitated news, lots of hypotheses, and we love talking to practical people actually applying these things in practice. That's why if you like the show, please click like, comment, share with friends, just send them on dark social in like your Teams or Slack channel, and love to get any other recommendations for folks you should interview. Thanks for sticking around with us, and see you in the next episode.